Let's talk about Iowa and what's in our rearview mirror. For the most part, Donald Trump made history because it was the widest margin victory in the history of the Iowa caucuses for Republicans. He's got a chance to really make history because no Republican, non-incumbent, has ever won Iowa and New Hampshire. So he could actually do both. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I just am amazed how many people want to diminish the magnitude of this win.
They can't stand it.
Because the turnout wasn't as great.
So I like to be a person that learns from history. In 2016, we saw the same thing. And it looks like the media, instead of taking this in and saying, you know, what is going on? What is this movement talking with the voters? They decided they were going to freak out. Here's the tease of that.
Trump has in some ways become religion for a certain section of the American electorate. It is very much a group of people that find that Trump is in some ways a second coming.
This is a state that is overrepresented by white Christians.
Under my voice, you hear him repeating his anti-immigrant rhetoric.
There is a reason that we and other news organizations have generally stopped giving an unfiltered live platform to remarks by former President Trump.
49% is not great for him, actually.
Trump swept Iowa. No, he did not. These are small numbers, and it's very important to remember that.
Yeah, you know, and so Donald Trump was north of 50%, but to the point about the turnout, and Lawrence and I were there, because it was so bitterly cold, it was historic in nature, where people did not turn out the way they had in the past. The precinct that I went to, Des Moines 62, they were estimating ahead of time that probably 100 people would show up and caucus, but it was so cold, and the streets were still very slick. Only 50% showed up. There has been some analysis that suggests that Trump's biggest gains were in evangelical areas and his smallest wins were in cities. But the biggest test is going to come, and Brian, you kind of touched on this, will be with New Hampshire, which is the next stop. Because keep in mind, right now, given the fact that she has already enjoyed the endorsement of the governor of New Hampshire, Nikki Haley is surging. There's a new poll out that shows that Nikki Haley and Donald Trump are tied at 40% with likely Republican primary voters. It does not take into consideration the number of Democrats and independents who will also be able to vote. It's actually going to be more like a general election. So Nikki Haley could do better than a lot of people think. But then again, next up, South Carolina, her state, Trump has got a gigantic lead there.
Yeah, he does. And every state's different. You know, we don't always see the nominee win in Iowa or in New Hampshire or in South Carolina, but it just gives you an idea of where voters are thinking. And he did win with record numbers yesterday, 30 points ahead of the other competitors. Now, there's an article in the New York Post. Michael Goodwin wrote it, and this is the headline. As Trump nears GOP nomination, elitist media again treats American voters like they're stupid. It's 2016 all over again. He talks about when it comes to the media coverage that here we go again, once again, horrified by GOP voters. They're furious that their nightmare could be happening again. He gives different examples. He talks about the New York Times. It says that they don't have any qualms about looking down on middle America. The Sunday editorial said it is the responsibility of Republican voters to nominate a candidate who is fit to serve. In the same paper, he writes, in 2016, had to apologize to readers because its reporters underestimated Trump's appeal. The paper, he says, will support the Democrat, even if it's a dead raccoon or Joe Biden.
Right. So you know, that is fascinating. Go ahead.
Sorry, one more thing. The last time that paper endorsed a Republican was 1956.
Right.
And that person win?
That was, I wasn't alive
was it Eisenhower?
then. No. It was Eisenhower.
Okay, from my hometown.
Yeah, if you win a world war, that would give you an advantage. Exactly. I've always said that. I've always said that. If when you win a world war,
that's your mantra.
Yeah, that's the same old line for me. I would just like to add this: look for Nikki Haley to pick up the attacks directly at Trump. She's evidently got a bunch of ads running. You saw her tone after the Iowa third-place finish, and you saw her here when we were interviewing on our show. She's directly at Trump. These two 80-year-old guys got to go. It's time for a new generation. And I think Donald Trump was very magnanimous at the end of his victory speech. He set a different tone, and Nikki Haley came out and was very tough. So I think this is her Waterloo.
because if she's going to get moderates, independents, undecideds, or Democrats who just want something to do because Democrats aren't showing up for New Hampshire, this is her moment. And a few of those polls had her within single digits of the president. This would be the knockout for her, though. If Trump wins big here, it's got to be over.
The one challenge that she's going to have is with Republican voters. And I mean the base of the party. And they see right now, there's no way Ron DeSantis people are going to go and vote for Nikki Haley. They don't believe in that Republican Party. They would say that it is the old Republican Party.
But the Christie people will.
The Christie people will. There's such a small fragment of the entire Republican Party. And I just think that she's doing herself a disservice by claiming to be a front runner, that she's number 2 in the race when you had Ron DeSantis. And what people argue is the most conservative governor right now, that she somehow doesn't have to debate him anymore, that it is a one-on-one now with Donald Trump. I just don't think that's going to work.
Well, right now the Republican Party is like 4 different parties because you've got, and the Des Moines Register did a survey of people who went out and did the caucusing. You know, there's the super MAGA who will only vote for Trump. There's the MAGA persuadable. You know, they like the policies, but, you know, if something comes along, they might. Then there are the moderates, and then there are the anti-Trumpers. So, the hard thing for a Republican is how do you get all of those people? That may not be possible given everybody's approach. Obviously, Donald Trump's got a great big built-in advantage already because he invented MAGA, and there are a bunch of super-duper MAGA people.
And you got to ask yourself real quickly, Ainsley, why so many Democrats want Nikki Haley on the ticket? I know there's some polls that suggest that, you know, that it could be beneficial to the Republican Party to beat. But a lot of people are giving her money that are a part of the Democratic Party. A lot of people in Iowa, there were Democrats and independents switched over and caucused for her to be on the ticket when they plan on voting for a Democrat. And I just got to ask, you know, she's been having a lot of gaffes lately. And I don't think she's as strong as the establishment class thinks she is. She had one yesterday on our show where she was specifically asked, after she was attacked by Joy Reid, has there ever been a point where there was discrimination in the country? And she just flubbed the line. She also flubbed with the Civil War. She's lucky I was on vacation, because it's something that a Republican from South Carolina, where the Civil War started, should have been easily been able to answer.
Brian was asking her, is the party racist? She said, we're not a racist country. And I was watching other networks, and they were saying she had to withdraw that, and she had to say there are some racist people, but overall we're not a racist country. And what do you think she should have said?
All she had to say is, look, we have had racist moments, because she told the story about, right after she said that we're not a racist country, of a time when racist things happened to her. It's easy to say, look, we had a time in this country where racism was prevalent. We had moved forward as a country, and I lived the American dream.
I'll give you an example.
Simple.
Well, it was Joy Reid said she didn't win because she's brown, and Republicans don't vote for brown people. Her answer should have been, I lost not because of the color of my skin. I lost because Donald Trump beat me by 30 points, and I think it's going to be different in New Hampshire. And I would say this, it's not the Republican Party that's got to run from their racist past. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Frederick Douglass was a Republican. Booker T. Washington was a Republican. So, I mean, everything flipped in the 60s. So if you want to get into that conversation, you could go in that direction, too. Republicans don't have that horrendous history when it comes to race, Jim Crow and segregation.
I wish somebody would write books about those people, because then people could actually read and study more.
Right, that would be fantastic.
I mean, if you look at...
Ainsley, it's a plug for BrianKilmeade.com.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
Yeah, what happened with the Chiron? You couldn't put it up. I don't know what happened. Thanks, Steve.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.